Hello there. Happy Tuesday. I'd love to hear how your week was or how your week's been going. Yesterday, that was fun. I don't know if you joined the whole solar eclipse train, but we did it differently. My kids are still engaged, even though 3 of the 4 are graduated. And we were living vicariously through them because we're in the Pacific Standard Time and they're in the Eastern Standard Time and they got the full meal deal. And I was so curious what y'all were doing. And all I knew is that I missed out on the colander effect. That looked cool. I didn't have glasses because apparently we're not going to see that much here. There's like 20% coverage. I'm sitting in North America in a place where I'm least likely to see anything. But I hope you're having a great day today. Yesterday was super fun. Doesn't even feel like a Monday yesterday. Today is your Monday, but it's Tuesday. And today it's Tuesday, so welcome to the Homeschool Mom Chat. If you are stopping by, whether you know Jamie on the other side or you know me, Teresa here, I welcome you to our conversation. Today we're going to be chatting with Jamie Plug. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. She's a mom of 3 and she coaches women who are experiencing or have experienced chaos and moving them into the calm of their lives. She's also a farm wife and she has 60 cows. And I'm dying to know if anything happened to her cows yesterday because I'm told farm or livestock are likely to be affected. I didn't see anything with my goats. I kept my large guardian dog inside just in case. Yes, I said large guardian dog inside. I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but that is our neighborhood. But I am looking forward to having a chat with Jamie all about how to rein in the chaos to live in the calm. So welcome to Jamie. Let's see if I can connect here. Hey,
Hi,
nice to meet you.
so nice to meet you. No, nothing happened with my cows. I was really hoping I have 2 left to have a calf. And I was like, come on, Eclipse, bring me that calf. And man, they
No,
didn't.
the full moon. I worked in labor back. It really was apparently statistics. No one that works there.
Yeah, snowstorms. Snowstorms always bring me a influx of babies. So
Just
yeah, other than that, nah, no eclipse. So my dog was outside the whole time because she rolled in something, and so she wasn't coming inside, and so she's fine.
for the record, I know you have a large garden, but we probably do. They aren't, and we only have 3 barks and crazy. But she was, yeah.
Yeah, no, she just kind of laid, and honestly, in Iowa, it just kind of looked like the sun went behind the clouds a little bit, like it was still very bright out.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure anybody noticed. I mean, my kids did. They went and saw it outside at school, but other than that,
There's people here that weren't letting the kids out from school because they were concerned. But, yeah, apparently retinol.
they didn't let them go to recess, and then we had to send like our PTO did glasses for every
Oh,
so every grade, and they kind of wiped them and rotated them through, and it
yeah.
worked, and everybody was
Oh,
happy. So
sounds good. Yeah. I thought it was a pretty cool experience. My kids are all grown up across the country. But tell me about your family.
yeah, so I have a freshman in high school, Jack, and a 7th grader, Kale, and a 2nd grader, Bristol, who are all feral, wild farm children who just, yeah,
Yeah.
love everything.
Yeah.
So do everything and love everything. So
Yeah. It's a beautiful life. It
yeah,
really, yeah.
yeah. The cows are definitely a passion and a love for each one of them in their own, definitely in their own separate way, but each way is needed on the farm, which is really an interesting concept to like be a part of.
Yeah, I bet it is. Yeah, I mean, I have a very small scale experience, not 60 cows. My sister cows, and that is an all year affair. Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
I would say June and July are my favorite because they go to grass, and yes, I have to go check them, but at least that's a side by side ride, and you get to
yeah,
see things, but it's the least busy that you are because there's no yards to clean and no calves to have or cows to breed or yeah. So June and July are my favorite, but then we're heavy into showing, so
yeah.
they're not busy.
So is
So
that your recommendation then from Chaos to Calm as everybody gets a farm?
I don't know if that's a recommendation because I always say that 90% of the time that's my chaos is trying to
Yeah,
figure out how to do everything and the farm.
yeah, yeah. It's an interesting thing. People told us if you live rural and you have experience with animals and land, that it would be so much more work. And it is.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of work. It's different than driving an hour and a half in suburbs or through, highways to get from work to home. And it feels much more nourishing, much
Yeah.
more grounded.
Yeah. Very grounded. Always grounded. Always be able to look around and just ground yourself. Or, before I got on here, I had to go out and check cows. And one of the old show heifers was just laying there, just very calm and peaceful. I walked over and I started petting her. And I was like, "You're such a good girl." And I was like, this isn't a normal cow experience. I fully understand that just because we have mostly show heifers. And so, um, yeah, it was just kind of peaceful in the moment. Yeah, lots of gratitude in that moment.
Yeah, me too. I agree. Cows, I've got goats, but I'm curious for all the people that aren't homesteading here. What is it that you do that outside that helps bring the chaos along?
So it's really all about self-care.
Yeah.
So when I started this journey, I had high anxiety. I was diagnosed with OCD thinking, just obsessive compulsive overthinking, everything. And it wasn't just home life, it was at work and it was the farm. I couldn't stop. If I made one decision and I had to line up three things to go with that decision for the cows, I'd have to check it 6 or 7 times to make sure I had it. And so the thing that I found out through my own life coach, I did therapy and I had a life coach. And the life coaching for me was really what flipped the switch was I didn't have a self-care routine.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing anything for myself. I was attempting a very terrible attempt to exercise. I was never consistent. I wasn't doing anything to nourish my soul or my mind. And so, really, what we talk about when, even if it's just a conversation with a woman, it's really about what's your self care routine. What does that look like? How are you? And I have come to despise the phrase of filling your own cup,
Yeah, me too.
but it is such
I
a true phrase. I think.
know. I know. I actually try to come up with a few different ways of framing it, but
Yeah,
really you have to hit a wall.
yeah,
And by the way, you just said, I mean, not everything, but the undercurrent of self-care is a requirement. That's my experience.
yeah,
That I wrote in 2018 with that exact theme and all the things that I'd learned to incorporate. But man, I had to hit a wall first.
yep.
Yeah.
I agree. And it was a such a light bulb moment and
Mm.
such an oh duh moment for myself of just like I know all like anything I had learned or even anything that I teach, everybody knows and everybody hears, and it's somebody pulling it into a frame of reference for you
Yeah.
that you just go, oh, this makes sense and this works for me. And so we talk a lot when we start working together about like it's okay for you to maybe not do certain things that we talk about or for you to make it so it works for
Yeah.
you, but it's not okay for you to do nothing because the whole point of this is for you to find what works for you and how it works for you. And I am a morning person. I get up and my routine starts at 4:45 in the morning because if it doesn't get accomplished, and I am not a night person. Um, boy, do I wish that the championship game last night was at 7 o'clock and not 8 o'clock, because I couldn't stay up for it. But that works for me. Some people are night owls, and so their self-care routine comes at night, and that's okay because that's what works for them.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important, is not to be trying to fit yourself into a hole that isn't yours.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That's right. And also recognize, I don't know how much you say the story of being or focus on other people and not on yourself. Myself, that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
Indirectly trying to fill up by filling somebody else's.
Oh, for
and
sure.
Sounds like a good idea in theory, or idea, but it's an instinct as a mom.
Yeah.
You tell somebody else that doesn't work, but for yourself, you're like, but I will just ignore it because something has to get done or somebody else needs.
Yeah. And I have figured out that I had to know what my love language was.
Yeah.
And I had to know what filled me up. Mine is words of affirmation from my partner. So I will do things for him to hear him say, "Oh, thank you." That is because that fills my cup. But when that wasn't coming from him, that was actually then depleting my cup.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those things that was just like this, oh my goodness, like we sat down and had the conversation of like, okay, I have no problem doing all of these things for you, but I'm going to need you to say, hey, thank you.
Yeah.
That's really, because that fills my cup, and that makes me feel less overwhelmed and less, instead of you saying well, I just don't understand why you're so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Because you keep putting things on my plate, or I keep putting these on my plate. And yeah, so that was important too. So we do talk about that, to kind of, yeah, just kind of what makes you feel good. And if it's giving gifts, if it, all of the different languages, like what is it that makes you feel good? Because that is also a way to kind of fill your cup, per se.
Yeah. It is, when it comes to relationships, dynamic, period. But I this is going to go really fast, but I really feel that we have to grapple with stories in our life, because those deeply influence what's important. And then we play a little dance, I guess, with each other in affirming the untold stories in our lives if we look at our stories.
Oh, for sure. I just listened to a podcast by Mel Robbins, and I can't remember who she had on as a guest, and it was all about frame of reference. And it was so enlightening to me on how we all have those stories.
Yep.
And those stories are our frame of reference for everything we do. The guest was talking about, like, she was from a Greek family, and women, they may have gone to college, but they came home and they were just they just had babies and were stay-at-home moms. And so she was fighting with her dad on where she was going to go to college. But his frame of reference was, it doesn't really matter because you're going to come home and you're going to, be a stay-at-home mom. And she actually doesn't even have any kids at this moment. Her and her husband decided to not have kids. Like, interesting for me on frame of reference, and how that all worked. And so then you start have one of my daughter's friends who is trying to, apparently must be out of school already, and is trying to get a hold of her, and she's not even home yet. But just how those things in your life, you're like, oh yeah, like, to me, I have caught myself telling my children, like, you will go to college, like, you will do something after high school. I don't care if it's, you're going to go into the trade world. I don't care. You may come back and farm. And then I sit and I think, I remember that exact phrase coming out of my dad's mouth. And that is, that is my frame of reference. And there are plenty of people that I know that I work with, that I do things with on the farm, that don't have a high school diploma, or, like, they don't have a high school diploma, or they don't have a college diploma, or they didn't go on, or maybe, maybe they're like me and I have a teaching degree and I'm farming and I'm a life coach. And that's, And so I just think like your frame of reference is so important when you're thinking about things.
Yeah, actually, we were talking about love languages, and then you were talking about relationships really affect how we feel about ourselves. I think the most important relationships are relationships with self.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, how we're experiencing, like why we choose to show relationships in the first place. It, I associate Enneagram in here. I don't know if you're familiar.
Yeah.
This is a really big one for me because it points to our motivations. I know that it's not like the be all end all. There's many look at ourself, but understanding what our core motivations are, understand as a two, I'm a helper, that I get that, feeling of the by doing things for other people. And it's not bad. Like, yeah, I get when you said that about your husband.
Yeah.
We recognize each other in the forest. And
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but I do. So when you said the relationship with yourself, when I was at my lowest moment, I didn't have a relationship with myself.
Right. Yeah. Me
You
too. But it was self-condemning and mostly on mute. Criticize or mute.
Well, so I remember thinking really hard about who would I choose? Who would I choose? Would I choose my husband or myself first if I had, and it wasn't like you have to say the life, or it was just like, who would you put first?
Yeah.
And the answer was always my husband. And that was always like, that was the biggest shock for me because I was like, well, why wouldn't I choose myself first? Like, why don't I like myself? Why don't I? And so then that really became the relationship that I started to foster and to just learn how to love her again because she is a wonderful person. So, yeah.
Actually, that I think there is a thing in culture that really speak. Women have this responsibility to always be nurturing others.
Yeah.
Of course, like I think certain cultures, like subcultures in our bigger culture, speak it even more loudly. Said about the Greek family,
Yeah.
and many other possible cultures, but we speak very loudly to each other that we should always be looking, and that's not true. And also, you have to look at yourself and say, are you a human being that functions on the same energy as every other human being? And yes, you are. So therefore, you can.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. It's just, yeah. Why I do what I do, I guess, is that that moment right there was just, I was like, oh, I wish I could help everybody know this. I wish I could help everybody know that they can love themselves and that it's okay. And it's not selfish.
That's and that's easier for me than the filling of the cup. Like, oh, don't say those words. Inside of me, I'm like, oh, we have to do that again. That again.
Yeah.
Yes. It's only if you're not being.
Yes. I think the big thing for me was we I had a mom, I have a mom, she's still here. She's wonderful. She's fantastic. But who always put everybody else first as well. She was a stay-at-home mom for like the first 9 years of my life. And then financially it was just she needed to get a job. And so she never switched the role from the stay-at-home mom into a working mom. She was just always both. And so that's the example I've always had, and I love her for it. She was fantastic while we were home. But even now, there's times where I'm like, Mom, you don't have to do so much for everybody. Just like you can relax, and that's okay. So, yeah.
When you were talking about having a relationship with yourself, that episode today is on becoming more you. This concept of first you have to notice you're in the room, you person. And the question that I would ask people at times is, tell me what your favorite restaurant is, or favorite food. And something so basic, if you really are not checked in with yourself, I don't know. What does everybody else want to eat? Or I don't know.
Yeah. So that's my tricky one because I'm a lover of food, and so I really truly most of the time don't care. I'm just like, you tell me, that's fine, and that's not. I have favorites.
Yeah.
I absolutely do, but when you said that, when I taught fourth grade, that's the one of the activities we did at the beginning of the year was tell me what your favorite food was, and we tried to like a word association to help remember names, and that was a hard thing for fourth graders to do. Like
Right.
really tell me what they liked.
Interesting.
And I would say,
They could.
well, why do you like, if you ask, why do you like it?
Yeah.
Well, my mom always makes it. Well, is that really your favorite? Is it really your favorite? Or, yeah. So just interesting. Just put that connection together when
Yeah.
brought that up that, yeah.
I think that's always a first step. I think there's different things like, projecting into the future and asking yourself from, for 5 years from now. And some people will, whoa, way too much. I can't think that. That's too far in the future. And also, maybe we've also learned we can't control the world, which is true. But what do you like? What does your heart want? What have you listened to? What this is telling you
Mm.
you want, but also, what do you want?
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the weeks that, when we do it's our last week, I always have them put together kind of a vision board, and we just kind of talk through, we like write goals, and it's always so interesting to me how that always turns out and how you can see the growth, because the intake form says what do you want in this many days, this many days, this many days, and then like so you look when I'm looking at that and then looking at vision boards, I'm like the growth, the like I'm giving myself permission to say I want this. I'm giving myself permission. I know what I want. Know how I'm going to get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, it's hard for me not to always be the please journal people because that element, you put what is in your head or your process on paper and then get really clear. It's a funny thing when you start writing because at first, most people are a little unnerved. Not everybody. Some people are unnerved writing what you really think and putting it out into the world.
Yeah.
And I 100% was. And I assumed everybody was criticizing, didn't like it, had a different opinion on something. And within a few months, I realized nobody's reading it.
Yeah.
Very few people are reading it. So it was okay. Nobody was actually criticizing like I think they were. And if they were, they didn't tell me. And even if they suggested in direct way, I learned, well, but that's what I think. And I'm not good or bad for thinking what I think. It's just what I think. And turns out when you write long enough, you realize you also don't agree with yourself after a while. You also, but if you have the guts to put what you really think on paper, it actually helps you to get clear on what you think.
Yeah.
You can't just keep it up here. You can't just
Yes.
put it there. It has to come out.
Yes. That's one of the things that we always talk about is journaling. And I always say, okay, so if you don't want to write, fine, don't write. There are a million speech to text apps or notes on your phone or computer or whatever.
Yeah.
Just talk it so that it writes it so that you can go back and
Yeah.
read it. Because that is the piece that's the most important. It's not you physically handwriting it onto the paper. It's that the words are on the paper for you to read and you to go, oh, wait, maybe that's not exactly how I think it is. Or I want to change this. Or,
Yeah.
well, that's not really how, a lot of times it's, well, that's not really how it went, but that's how your mind is perceiving it went. So when you talked about it, it just gave you time to step back and a reflection piece because that is so important.
And in the beginning, some people are well with the idea of it, then you can burn it. It's
Yeah.
okay. You can get rid of it. In fact, I have like an entire electrical room downstairs filled with my journals, and I don't go back to them. I don't know why I keep them. Memories or something. Someone's gonna have to back up a truck and bring it to one day. I don't recommend rereading the ones, really junk, but
Yeah.
it helped me in the moment.
And I think And that's what I mean when reflection is in the moment, you're rereading them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't go back and reread them after a year. You know, like once the notebook is filled for me, we burn all of our paper. So it's burnt. It's gone. Yeah. But I will, once I write it, I do go back and reread it just to see if my perception and my reality meet. Because I found out so many times I was thinking through things and I was thinking through them completely, like, well, is that really what happened? Well, I also noticed this. And the truth is,
Yeah.
this isn't as, I shouldn't be as anxious or I shouldn't be as overthinking of this as I have been because. And so it kind of helped me reason through things. And a lot of times I'll just write because I need to get it out of my head.
Right. Yeah.
I
That
think
too.
that's the biggest
Yeah.
thing. You know,
Definitely too.
knowing I'm an overthinker, instead of overthinking it, get it out of my head, put it on paper and move on.
Yeah. I think sometimes the way that we process is different. I know there's some people that don't journal. They don't prefer to do that. Sometimes they're verbal processing, but typically verbal processing people like to journal. I did put a poll actually, stories yesterday about journaling, and so far it looks like it's about 60, like it's about 2/3 that are journaling versus that aren't. And I do encourage people to even to leave a journal on kitchen counter as you're getting a cup of coffee in the morning, because you start to get really clear on your sense of self that there's you that just to do today.
Yeah.
I'm curious what different strategies or approach things that you've seen in your life help you to get clear on who as a person.
Well, I wrote a definition about myself when I was really struggling of who I wanted to be. And so I took all the things that made me anxious. I took all the things that made me feel as if I wasn't enough. And I turned them into positive attributes that I would want to possess. And so for me, when I get nervous about something, when I'm struggling, when I need a little confidence boost, I have that and I pull it out. Actually, I wish I had my purse in here because it's in my billfold, and I pull it out and I read it and I remind myself this is the person I have become. And so, like, to me, that's the thing that defining who I am. You don't have to be that person in the moment. You have to be working towards that person. And the way to work towards that person is to know what that person is, what that person looks like, what that person possesses. And so then you act as if you are that person, you then become that person.
Beautiful. I've got lots of affirmations like that, and I know that some people perceive as a kind of like a life area development. But just as you're saying, we sometimes believe the thought about ourselves and
Yeah.
it really becomes us. And yeah, like it's such a benefit if you tell yourself, not that I talk, but if you tell yourself you're an athlete, well, then you're not sitting to watch Netflix 4 hours at
Yeah.
at least not most athletes, but maybe Netflix athletes. But anyways, some activity, and if you're telling yourself you're a mother, then you're going to, is this a kind and patient mother approach? Open of the impatience at some checkpoint in your that identity part. That part I think is important.
We actually, that's how I start people off in journaling.
Yeah.
Is we start with 5 I am statements about themselves. And you know how hard 5 of them are for some women? So hard because, again, that relationship with themselves is not fostered. And so we start to rewire the brain into thinking about themselves in a positive way.
Yeah.
And actually, like, looking in the mirror and in your eyeballs and tell yourself that you are those things.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because you're like, oh my gosh, I felt so silly. But by the end of the week, by doing it every, because I have them do it every day, I'm like, by the end of the week, I didn't feel silly anymore. And I really started to feel those things. And I'm like, yeah, I know how awesome I mean, it's kind of going back with the high five habit of Mel Robbins and like giving yourself a high five and looking at yourself in the eyeballs and really speaking to yourself.
I love that, Jamie. I say that time to go, especially if you're dealing with frustration or anger. You haven't created a path away from it. You haven't figured out how to, instead of going to a friend and your husband or mom or whoever complaining about what you're frustrated about, go to the mirror and look at yourself in that moment, because all of a sudden something shifts in your brain and there's that angry, oh, are you sad? You're confused, you're frustrated, you don't know what to do. And then you feel compassion towards her. And it's profound, it's weird, but it.
Yes. Yeah, when I tell them to find a picture of yourself as a child. And when you're angry and when you're going to be mean to yourself, you go tell it to that picture of yourself as a child, because there's no way. Oh my goodness. You know how many of my clients come back to me and they're like, I can't say those things to her. There's no way. I'm like, I know. Why do you think I asked you to do that? And I'm like, what can you tell her? I've made it. Like, I'm a good human being. Very profound shifts happen when you try those kind of things.
I can't remember the fellow's name, but there was actually someone I saw who also did the reverse. He's a practitioner or something. And he said that if you are able to go back in the days if this has happened to you, had someone speak really to you, if you can put that person's words in the form of like an animated character in Elmo's voice, or I don't know, Muppets, or I don't know, but probably. But an animated character, really wonky, like not even the Muppet character, Elmo, and it's sounding ridiculous. Then have the words that they, or the ones they spoke to, say them to yourself, and do it on until you realize how ridiculous it was,
Right.
whatever. And even the moments that you've had in your life, with all of a sudden you realize, not to mock the other person, but or to realize that it was just nonsense. It wasn't, no matter what role they played in your life.
Well, and that the Muppets, I'm thinking like the voice of the chef, that would just about put me over the edge, like trying to do that. But two, that all of those words are based off how they feel about themselves and what's going on inside of them, and has nothing really to do with you. And so it kind of helps flip the script a little bit on the sense of it's them, not me. I mean, really, that statement of it's you, it's not me, in that instance is the truth.
That is exactly true. It's hard to know that when it's a parent.
Oh, for sure.
And it can, I honor and acknowledge that was my, and also know that is very hard to get the space of, but this is what is true, because I've always believed it. I believed it because you were the cake or pie family you were born in, and so of course you believed it. Every child believes what you tell them. Right. It's just how we're wired, until we finally have to it and realize that our parents were just like us parents. We have our mental wiring, not all that stories telling ourselves, that is how we're speaking to our kids.
Oh, for sure. The amount of times I have apologized to my children or had the conversation about what's really going on, frustration for me, and like in breaking that down for them, they really, they get it. They do. They really understand it. And having that conversation of like, okay, well, I'm sorry I yelled at you, but I'm really frustrated. And so just like you, when you're frustrated, I don't always know how to handle that emotion maybe in the most eloquent way. And so this is how it came out in this moment. And those are really interesting conversations to have because our kids get it. I mean, I do. I feel like any parent who has given just an ounce of effort into like getting them to understand emotion, which most parents do, they get it. They deal with friends, they deal with peers, they deal with all kinds of things. And so,
and the responsibility feels immense oftentimes when I'm having this conversation with moms. And I know from my idea of wanting to arm's life, that's what I called my way back in the day. And I wanted that. I want any pain for my child, any in my
mhm.
or me, you know, being wishy-washy and various possible. And I actually now understand that was never in the car to do things perfectly. In
Mhm.
fact, it's the intention for parents in our growth journey. We're all here on the planet for growth at core, and be exempt from making with our kids, so
Mhm.
that we learn how to do the guilt of it, not just yeah, we have to learn how to do that, and we also need to know what are we going to do prepared.
Yeah. I think it just teaches our kids that we're human. You know,
Yeah,
it's like you said, like they see our human side. We're not perfect. And what do you do when you screw up?
yeah,
To me, like I have stopped feeling guilty when I make a mistake
yeah.
because in that moment, I'm like, okay, well, I'm human. I am not perfect. And I'm teaching them what to do when I screw up.
You know what I would love to hear, to close our conversation, I
Yeah.
got to this place of moving from you were a teacher, then you
Yeah.
farm, and then you moved into life coaching and my course. Yeah,
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that set this path was that statement by my dad. You are going to do something. You're going to go to college and have a college degree because him and my mom did not. Knowing that his frame of reference was he wanted a better life for me. And thank goodness for him, I'm very blessed. So I went and got a teaching degree. I taught for 14 years. My last year was the year after the quarantine year.
yeah,
But for 4 years before that, I had worked with a life coach. I had severe anxiety. I had started in the quarantine putting together this life coaching business and working with women, and it just kind of took off. And my we farm 50-50 with my mother and father-in-law, and so it just became very apparent that somebody needed to be home. Of our two salaries, mine was the least. So my husband's like, I can't stop working. You can do the farm work. And, so that's really that. I mean, it's not a very, like, there's no big quest or anything. It was really somebody had to come home and I had built this side business. And so I just kept this business going. And I had taken a couple different business courses, and really the thing that hit home for me was people don't want to see the perfect, they want to see the imperfect. And they always want to see cows. They just, that's like what they want to see. And so those are the things that when I write content, that's what's in my forefront, you know? So yeah, so my journey is really just kind of, it started with a self-care journey of my own, becoming a better person, a better friend to myself, and then knowing that there are women who just need to know how to do it. They just need a reminder.
yeah. And isn't it the most fun ever?
It,
I love it.
I do too. I love every minute of it. You know, it's really funny in our contract. It always says like it's 45 minutes. Yeah, it's usually an hour, hour and a half because we get talking about children. Or I had another client who was, she raised cows herself. And so we would be chatting back. I'm like, oh, I've never had that happen. Like, what do you do for that? And, you know, we'd get talking about cows. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it really, truly, I'm very blessed to be able to do this.
Yeah. I think it's a beautiful,
Yeah.
highly recommend it. If I have to get me a couple cows.
Yes. I know a couple who are very sweet.
I pasture, so that will be a problem.
That really would be because they like to eat.
Yeah. So they don't need pasture. They're just like my fruit trees and my shrubs.
There you go. Yeah, I've never gotten into goats, but I really adore all the little videos. But that's where I'm at. I'm like, I got enough issues here. Let's not add any more because that would be my luck. I would have like goats in my house somehow because of my daughter. So
Absolutely. In fact, my Nubian goat comes to the front door and I open it. She's okay. I want to see your barn.
yes. Oh yeah, we have a bucket bottle calf named Buddy, and I'm pretty sure if Bristol could figure out how to get Buddy in her room, that's where Buddy would live. So, yes.
Yes. Well, farm life is very satisfying. It is dirty,
Yes.
but I don't have livestock in the house.
Yeah. No. No, I pass.
Hard house.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure chatting. For those that are interested in learning more about where you tell us you are online.
Yeah, so I actually have another Instagram account and I actually post to both. So it doesn't matter. You can either, if you want more information, like you want to talk to me, you can message me here or at Embracing the Chaos and Loving It. I have a website, embracingthechaos.com. I have a Facebook group. So if you can't find me and you're here, message me. I will get you to where you want to be. I promise. I'm more than happy to help.
You're in Iowa in a boat somewhere.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Well, and if I haven't already introduced myself, and I'm a certified life coach in the homeschool, and so you can find me here on Homeschool Mama Self-Care, also on my podcast at Homeschool Mama Self-Care, and obviously also on LinkedIn because that's where we met.
That is where we met. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
It was a pleasure chatting with you, Jamie, and I hope that we connect again.
Yes, I agree. It was fantastic. Thank you for asking me.
Yeah. Okay, you go check the cat. I'm going to go check the goats.
All right, will do. Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.